Here's what's coming up now on Sixers Now by Chat Sports. Should the Sixers trade for John Wall? Also, how about a Ben Simmons for Kristaps Porzingis swap? But first, before we get into this, subscribe to the channel. NBA training camp tipping off on September 28th. The regular season getting underway in October. We're going to be hitting you with Sixers news and rumors all season long, all year long. So support the fastest growing Sixers channel right here on YouTube and hit that red subscribe button down below to get us to 2,000 subscribers. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr. I hail from the Philadelphia area, so I appreciate all of you for supporting us and making 76ers Now a part of your day. Here's what we have coming up. Should the Sixers make a deal for John Wall? Him and the Houston Rockets have gotten together. They have figured out, okay, it's probably not in the best interest for John Wall as well as the organization to continue forward, especially after the Rockets drafted Jalen Green in the first round of the NBA draft. So John Wall kind of on the outside looking in, but this isn't a contentious relationship right now. At least that's the reporting from Shams Charania of Stadium as well as The Athletic. He said this on Tuesday. After meeting and seeing eye to eye on the direction of the Houston Rockets, the franchise and John Wall have agreed on working together to find a new home for the five-time All-Star guard, sources tell The Athletic. He continued by saying this: the plan is for Wall to remain present around the Rockets entering training camp, which begins late this month, and to not play in games for Houston this season, sources said. Wall is entering the second year in Houston after spending most of his career with Washington. So this relationship between Wall and Houston, much better than the relationship between Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I understand John Wall has some name power, and he's made it to 5 All-Stars, a former top prospect coming out of Kentucky. I just have concerns about his efficiency and his consistency. He did bounce back from an Achilles injury last year to play pretty well for Houston, a shade under 21 points per game. He dished out almost 7 dimes per night. But my problem is, you might look at the points per game and assists per game numbers and say, John Wall puts up digits. But again, this goes back to the efficiency. He's kind of like a more inefficient Russell Westbrook. To me, John Wall is almost like Russell Westbrook light, and I've never been a big fan of Russell Westbrook. Field goal percentage, only 40% for a point guard who can also play the 2, and then his three-point percentage, he's never been a great three-point guy, less than 32%. So I don't love the numbers there, and John Wall now, even though his numbers this past year were better than the numbers that he put up for a decade with Washington after being that top pick, he's just not the same player because of the injury issues that he suffered, namely that torn Achilles. But from 2010 to 2019, John Wall was a very exciting player, a highlight reel night in and night out because he had that Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose type of athleticism before D Rose went down with his knee injuries. But for a decade, my man was putting up 20 and 9 any given night. But again, the story of John Wall's career, while he can be electric at getting to the cup, running the fast break, and crossing cats over, it's the efficiency for me. Also, maybe the biggest thing of this entire conversation, John Wall, the next 2 years, his contract is legitimately one of the worst across the NBA. He's on the books for a base salary of 2 years, $91.7 million. And for the Sixers, I know that Ben Simmons frustrates so many people, but he's a great defensive player, much better on that end than John Wall. And I'd make the argument he might be a little bit more efficient than John Wall. Of course, Ben Simmons allergic to shooting the basketball, but Wall on this roster, because of his lack of efficiency, I don't love the fit. And I'm just not sure how John Wall would fare alongside a guy like Joel Embiid, and I also have concerns about his long-term health because the last couple of years that has crept up on him. Why are we talking about John Wall on the channel, though? Well, Kendrick Perkins of ESPN used to play in the league, won a title with the Boston Celtics. He's tapped in. He's the one who came out with the report first about Ben Simmons not possibly reporting to training camp. It looks as though that could come to fruition. Perk said this: there are 3 teams out there I really think should pursue John Wall. That's the 76ers, the Clippers, and the Pelicans. And if you want to get rid of Ben Simmons and his contract, maybe you trade Ben Simmons for John Wall because those contracts are in the same neighborhood with one another. Maybe they're even neighbors. But has Ben Simmons' trade value fallen this far? Ben Simmons is a multi-time All-Star. He's a first-team All-Defender. I think he's the best defender in the NBA because he can legitimately guard positions 1 through 5. But we were talking last year about Ben Simmons almost being in a trade for James Harden. Daryl Morey almost pulled the trigger on that. Previous years, Ben Simmons for maybe a Devin Booker. Now we're talking about Ben Simmons for John Wall. My goodness, that's bad, but that's what a playoff flameout will do to a player's value. Again, I think Simmons' value is a lot higher than what people are making it out to be. Philly, your opportunity to voice your opinions and sound off in the comment section. I'm going to go back to see what you all come up with, but get your votes in. Do you want the Sixers to trade for Wall? Type T for trade, type H for hell nah, Chase. That idea is crazy. Once again, get those votes in the comment section down below. 76ers Now by Chat Sports is presented to you today by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. This deal going on from BetUS, it's the best deal that any sportsbook has to offer. Why is that? Because if you go to chatsports.com/EaglesBet, shout out to all my Eagles homies, and enter the promo code EAGLES125, you get a 125% deposit bonus when you sign up with that link and that promo code. What that means is when you put $100 into your account, you get an additional $125 back. That's $225 to wager with. Maybe you want to smash the Eagles plus 3.5 against the 49ers. I was all over Eagles plus 3.5 on the road to start the season against the Atlanta Falcons, helping us get over the depression of losing that series against the Atlanta Hawks. Over under, I'm not touching that. I think the Eagles are sneaky good, and I like that plus 3.5 number. So get your bets in using that link at the bottom of your screen, as well as that promo code. More Sixers rumors to get to. Ben Simmons for Kristaps Porzingis. Tim Cowlishaw of the Dallas Morning News proposing this potential trade, and I absolutely hate it because I think Kristaps Porzingis is somewhat of a fraud. He's kind of a stiff, and I think he's soft for a big man on the floor, and I don't think it works at all to bring KP into play alongside Joel Embiid. Tim Cowlishaw, who's also on Around the Horn, that's probably how you know him on ESPN, had this to say in his article: Dallas needs to trade Porzingis for Ben Simmons. There, I said it. Thought about it for 2 months. Thought about it more the last 2 weeks since Simmons demanded a trade. And with the NFL season kicking off, if you think this is a weird time to be throwing out Mavs thoughts, well, NBA training camp starts in 2 weeks on September 28th. Simmons has been one of the league's best defenders, first-team unit the last 2 seasons. If you're a lifetime Mavericks fan, this may be an unfamiliar concept. A franchise came into our land in 1980 and has produced 1 title but 23 playoff appearances, but has never had a player make first team all defense. I don't expect Ben Simmons to become a prolific shooter. His job is defending and setting up others for good shots, but could Jason Kidd teach him a little bit in the shooting department? Wasn't Jason Kidd a 32% three-point shooter the first 10 years of his career and a 37% shooter from distance the final 9 seasons? He learned something somewhere. And it's my opinion, as I am Chase Sr., spitting the hot takes and the fire thoughts, that Ben Simmons is about a jump shot away from really becoming a superstar. He's never tapped into that part of his game. If he does, I think he can be dangerous. But I wouldn't pull the trigger on this trade if I'm Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers, because I flat out don't think that this makes any sense at all to pair up Kristaps Porzingis and Joel Embiid. You'd play Embiid at the 5, Porzingis at the 4. Yeah, he's kind of a stretch big who can knock down some threes and rebound the basketball a little bit, but I'm kind of about the modern day NBA style of just rolling with an athletic big and not having 2 big men on the floor at the same time. That experiment with Al Horford and Embiid 2 years ago was disastrous. Now, when you look at the numbers for KP last year, they were pretty good. from a raw numbers standpoint. But the eye test told me otherwise, that Porzingis, he's bitching about not being the superstar instead of Luka Doncic. They're clashing in the locker room. The bad body language doctor in me, the sirens were going off. Woo, woo, woo. Porzingis, I don't like the body language. I like the numbers, 20 points, 9 rebounds per, shooting, almost 48% and almost 38% from distance as a big. But all those other things, I don't like it. And for the Sixers, they need to continue to hone in on that culture, because at times over the last couple of years, they have faltered in that department. And I thought they were mentally soft in that playoff series against Atlanta. They don't need another softie on this roster. Philly, would you trade Simmons for KP? I might be in the minority in saying, no, don't do it. I think, though, if I know my city well, I'm in the majority. So type Y for yes, I'd make the trade. Type N for nah. I'm typing my N for no. Before I get out of here, be sure to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. It's the same handle on both social media platforms. You want to talk Sixers? You want to talk NBA, Eagles, NFL? Hey, let's do it up. Let's chop it up. Love talking with my peeps.